Alrighty, welcome to Unit 8, one of our last few units here of AP Statistics. And we're going to be looking at what is called a chi-square distribution. Now, for any of you who are in AP Bio or you've taken AP Bio, you might have heard of this before. Now, so far we've looked at Unit 6, which was inference for proportions. That gave us counts, that gave us categorical data. And then we looked at Unit 7, which was inference for means, right? We were looking at the average characteristic here. Well, we can turn any qualitative variable or a categorical variable into a quantitative one by counting the number of successes and failures. It either does happen or it does not happen. And then we could see on average it happens about this percent of the time. But if we do that, that's a compromise because it forces us into a very binary existence. And life is much more varied than that. Now, if only there was a way to keep track of all of those categories, and maybe there is, but we can't do it using confidence intervals because a confidence interval tries to estimate a parameter. And here, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be looking at an overall distribution. So, a hypothesis test tries to determine if an observed result could reasonably be expected, to determine if there is significant difference between what was observed and then what was expected. Now, perhaps that might work, right, if we're looking at a parameter, if we're comparing two populations, but we also need to account for some way to measure the difference between something that's observed and then something that is expected. And so that leads us here to what we call the chi-square distribution. And you can see with degrees of freedom 1, we've got a right curve. Degrees of freedom 4, we've got a right curve. Even degrees of freedom 8, we've got a right curve. And I'm sure you know where this is going. As the degrees of freedom increases, we can probably expect this distribution to become more symmetric, very similar to our T model that we used with means. Now, here's a few characteristics of the chi-square distribution. Well, number one is that it is non-normal. However, again, as degrees of freedom increases, we can see that it becomes more symmetric. Next up, we see that it's right skewed, and the reason that it's right skewed is because we're not allowing for any non-negative values, meaning that we're only dealing with positive numbers. So we're going to ignore negatives and zeros here because I'm counting to see if something has happened. I can't have negative successes, and it is possible I could have 0 successes, but I'm measuring the difference between what's observed and what is expected. Next up, we're only going to measure the area to the right of the tail since we're trying to observe a difference that is as large or larger than what is expected. So I want to see basically all of these right skews. We're going to be dealing with the area shaded to the right of the curve, very similar to a greater than statement in our hypothesis testing. And lastly, the type of chi-square procedure is going to show us how we calculate the degrees of freedom, and that'll be covered over the next few lessons. So this is what a chi-square distribution looks like. All right, so let's take a look here at our first type of chi-square procedure, and this is going to be the chi-square test for goodness of fit. Now this happens when we measure a single categorical variable in a single population. So think about this as a one-to-one. Typically, we'll have an expected distribution being provided, and the most common indicator of a goodness of fit, or GOF, is that there is no preference, there is no difference, or that there is uniformity in the categories, or that our distribution follows a particular type of proportion distribution. So we have two outcomes basically. Either it's uniformly distributed or it follows the company's claim. Now we're still going to use our state plan do conclude model. Except for phantoms, we're going to drop the P because we're no longer estimating a single parameter. We're not looking at a single proportion or a difference in proportions, but instead I'm looking at how does the overall data fit into this distribution. So in my state, my null hypothesis is going to be that the stated distribution of the categorical variable in the population of interest is equivalent to the prescribed distribution or is uniformly distributed. And my alternative is going to be that it is not equivalent to the prescribed distribution or that it is not uniformly distributed. That's a bunch of hoopla for now. We'll do some practice in class and you'll see what I mean here. Thankfully, the assumptions have not changed. So of course we need a random sample or randomized experiment so that we can generalize or infer cause and effect. We'll be checking independence via the 10% condition to make sure that we can sample without replacement and our observations won't be influencing one another. And then lastly, we're going to be checking the large counts, but instead of using 10, we're going to use a number of 5. Again, because we're not looking at just one parameter or the difference between the parameters, I'm looking at the overall distribution. So we're going to lower that number from 10 to 5. Now, if these conditions are met, we will use a chi-square test for the goodness of fit. To find the expected values, we'll just take the claim times the total sample size. If it's uniform, then we just divide the sample size by the number of categories. Or if it's a claim, we'll multiply the sample size by each claimed value. Then here, we're going to have this formula at the bottom of our AP Stats formula sheet, so you don't have to memorize it, but it just tells us observed minus expected squared divided by what's expected. Again, we're trying to exaggerate the differences here. Here, the degrees of freedom will be calculated using n minus 1, but instead of n being the sample size like it was in a T model, n is going to be the number of categories. And then lastly, our p-value, because we know that this is a greater than statement, because we're looking that it's as large or larger than expected, we're going to be using a right tail test always. And I will be posting a separate video on how to use the calculator commands, but these next few lessons are going to just be the mechanics behind a chi-square test. And then nothing changes in the conclude step. So let's take a look here at an example. And we're looking at cents from checks, and a person randomly selects 100 checks and records the cents portion of those checks. For those of you who have jobs, you know it's very rare that you end on a 0-0. Sometimes you are, right, because of taxes, hours that you work, etc. It's very rare that you get a very nice paycheck of like 0-0 or 25 or 50, right? Just because variation happens naturally in nature. And that's going to happen here with these distributions. And this is very similar to a principle called Benford's law, where we're going to be looking at how this tail, this distribution of numbers, actually occurs. But back to this example, the table below just lists those cent portions categorized according to these indicated values. We'll use a 1% significance level to test the claim that all 4 categories are equally likely. The person expected that many checks for whole dollar amounts would result in a disproportionately high frequency for the first category. But do the results support the expectations? So let's see here. So this means that this check here, 54 of the 100 checks, ended with $0 up to 24 cents. This means that 18 of the 100 checks ended between 25 cents and 49 cents, and so forth for these last 2 categories. Now, because I have 4 categories across 100 checks, I believe they're all equally likely. So if I believe they're all equally likely, then that means that each category should occur, well, 100 divided by 4 is 25 times. So here, my null hypothesis is that the distribution of check values is uniformly distributed, whereas I'm testing that the distribution of check values is not uniformly distributed. And even though it didn't use the word uniform, equally likely indicates that we would expect for it to be uniform. Now here I'm already given a claim that, well, we think the first one should be disproportionately high, and guess what? It pretty much looks like that if I look across all 4 categories. So I'm testing that they're not equally likely. All right, well, in my plan step, we randomly selected 100 checks, and it is reasonable to assume there's at least 1,000 checks in the population. And lastly, you can see here in this EXP, my expected distribution, all expected counts are at least 5, so our large counts condition is met. And since all 3 conditions are met, I'm going to use a chi-square test for the goodness of fit. Now notice this isn't for a one sample proportion or for the difference of proportions. I'm just looking at a distribution. I'm looking at how well does this observed data fit what's expected. All right, well, to calculate now in my do step, we've got a little bit of new vocabulary here. So I had 4 categories, so 4 minus 1 gives me 3. So I'm going to have 3 degrees of freedom here. Next up, this formula is just the observed minus the expected squared divided by the expected. So notice each of these here. This is the work that the calculator will do for us, but this is the test statistic. This is chi-square. Each of these terms gives me what we call the contribution to the chi-square statistic. That means if I sum all 4 of these differences up, I'll end up with my test statistic. So observed is what we see in the distribution. So 54 minus my expected squared divided by the expected. And I repeat that for each category. So notice 54, 25, 18, 25, and so forth. Each category is represented here. I'll sum all of those up and I'll get a test statistic of 45.36. And again, we're going to use a greater than because I want to observe a difference as extreme as the one that I've observed currently. So my lower bound in the calculator will be this test statistic. My upper bound will be some very large number. And my degrees of freedom, we found by doing categories -1, this gives me a p-value of basically 0. So in conclusion, since our p-value is approximately 0, and this is less than alpha of 1%, we reject the HOPE, which means there's convincing evidence that the distribution of check amounts is not uniformly distributed, and maybe we do have reason to believe that, yeah, it does result in a disproportionately high frequency for the first category. So our results support this claim. Well, that's a chi-square test for goodness of fit. Good news is that the two tests that follow are pretty much the same thing. The only thing that's going to change is the condition and then some information here in our null and alternative hypotheses. So let's take a look at some more examples here together. Alrighty, so let's find the p-value for a chi-square statistic that gives us a test statistic of 18, and we have 7 different categories. Then let's state our conclusion here at a significance level of 1%. Well, you can see this is just a calculator question. N-1 gives us 6 degrees of freedom. And then here, this would be the calculator command I'd enter, and I'd get a p-value of about 0.0062. The p is low. We're going to reject the HOPE. Now, what I need you all to try out is here in example 3, we're going to be looking at the color distribution of candy. So this is one where it's not uniformly distributed, but instead, to find the expectation, you're just going to take each claim and multiply it by the sample size. So go ahead and pause the video and try verifying the conditions for inference for yourself, and then we'll finish the rest of the problem together. So give yourself about 3 minutes to do so. All right, so hopefully your work looks like my work. Again, this expectation is kind of using like a binomial distribution because I have a set sample size, I've got a set claim. Now they are changing each time, so they're not independent of one another because they already have their own claims here. But same idea, n times p. So this would be the expected amount of candies that I'd have of each color, whereas this is what I actually had in my sample of 100. Now, we have to assume that this is a random sample of these 100 candies, at least 1,000 candies in the population. And I can see here that all of my expected counts are at least 5. And yeah, there we go. Next up, we'll calculate the test statistic, again, by taking each observed, subtracting the expected, squaring that difference, and then dividing by the expected. So you can see I did that here for red, for orange, and for green. Get a test statistic of 10.6195. And then I have a p-value here. The probability of obtaining my test statistic or something more extreme is about 0.0595. And if I were to use a 10% significance level, then we could reject the HOPE and we could claim that, hey, it actually differs from the company claim. But alas, that is our chi-square test for goodness of fit. One categorical variable in one single population. And in the next few lessons, we're going to talk about what other ways you could look at distributions. So stay tuned.